Get out! I said get out of this store right now. That's what the boutique manager screamed in front of her 8-year-old son, in front of rich customers, in front of cameras. She wasn't loud. She wasn't stealing. She was just black and shopping in the wrong zip code. But what they didn't know? That woman was a storm they'd never forget. And what she did next didn't just change the store. It changed the entire city. Where are you watching from? Drop your country below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit that subscribe button, because this story will shake you. Her name was Emma Price. Single mother, 34 years old. She had grown up on the south side of Chicago, where nothing came easy except hard work. Her son, Aiden, was her entire world. And that day, after saving for months, she had walked into a luxury boutique to buy him a new pair of shoes for his birthday, the first time in her life she'd ever bought something that expensive. She never expected that by the time she left, she wouldn't just be a customer. She would be the name on every billboard, every news report, and every corporate memo about racism, respect, and public shame. It was supposed to be a special day. Aiden had just turned 8 that morning, his gap-toothed smile lighting up Emma's entire apartment like the sun. They didn't have much, but they had love. And Emma, who worked double shifts at the hospital for the past 6 weeks, had set aside just enough to give him a small piece of joy, a pair of sneakers he'd seen on TV, limited edition, clean white leather, blue streaks, his dream. She dressed him in his neatest jeans and a little button-up shirt, smoothed down her natural curls, and wore her clean navy scrubs. She didn't have time to change after her shift. She didn't think she'd need to. The boutique sat on the north side of the city, glass walls, velvet carpets, and a silent air of wealth. She had barely taken 3 steps into the store before the air shifted, the kind of shift you don't see but feel, the kind that clings to your skin and reminds you instantly that you've walked into a space where your presence is not expected, not welcomed, not even tolerated. And even her 8-year-old son seemed to notice it, clutching her hand a little tighter as the hush rolled through the boutique like a silent alarm that had been triggered the moment they crossed the marble threshold. The polished floor beneath them too clean, the ceiling lights too white, the perfume in the air too sharp, all of it whispering that this was not a place meant for them. But Emma Price didn't flinch. Not when the manager stepped directly into her path. Not when she felt the stares tightening like a noose from the other customers. Not even when she heard a low snicker coming from behind one of the glass jewelry cases where 2 employees whispered while pretending to fold scarves. She held her head high because she had worked too hard, come too far, and endured too much to let a room full of overpriced handbags and shallow smiles make her feel small. She was there for one reason and one reason only. To give her son something special on his birthday, something he could remember, something that reminded him that no matter how the world looked at them, no matter what neighborhood they came from, no matter how much money they didn't have, he deserved to feel valued, celebrated, and seen. And she had saved for months to make this moment happen, skipping lunch breaks, working double shifts at the hospital, saying no to every personal want so she could finally say yes to him. And now, standing there in her navy scrubs, still warm from the overnight shift, with her hospital badge tucked discreetly in her coat pocket and her sneakers squeaking faintly on the tile, she felt the weight of 100 assumptions pressing down on her, the manager's eyes scanning her clothes like a barcode, measuring her worth not by who she was, but by what she wore. And though no words had yet been spoken, the message was clear. This store, this space, this brand was not meant for her. And then it happened. Sharp, loud, and deliberate. The phrase that would ignite a city and change the trajectory of everything that came after, the manager's voice cutting through the tension like a blade, telling her to leave, telling her she didn't belong, telling her to get out before she embarrassed herself further, telling her this boutique was for serious buyers only, not for browsers, not for trouble, not for her kind, and just like that, the memory she had hoped to create for her son turned into a lesson neither of them would ever forget. She felt the sting of humiliation rise in her throat, but swallowed it, blinking slowly as her son looked up at her confused and afraid. And instead of arguing, instead of yelling, instead of crying, she turned and left, her back straight, her head high, and her heart burning with a quiet fury that didn't scream, it simmered, it focused, it documented, because what that manager didn't know was that Emma was not only a nurse but a former journalism major, someone who understood how power worked, how narratives were built, how exposure could do what shouting never could. And that night, after putting her son to bed and tucking the blankets around his small shoulders, and wrote a post that would rattle an entire industry, she uploaded the store's name, the incident, the cold expressions, the glares, the way her son's smile faded in real time, and she paired it with a quiet photo of her badge and his birthday cake. And by sunrise, her phone had erupted. The video reached 1 million views by noon. 4 million by nightfall, and the fire had begun, a fire that spread faster than any lie, one fueled by a collective rage that had been simmering for years in the hearts of those who had been followed through aisles, who had been denied dressing rooms, who had been offered jobs in back rooms, but not in front of counters, who had been told in 100 silent ways that they were only allowed to exist, so long as they didn't make anyone uncomfortable. And Emma's story became the match that set the structure ablaze. Influencers reposted it, news anchors led with it, podcasts dissected it, mothers cried over it, and nurses rallied behind it, telling their own stories of being treated like thieves even after spending their lives saving strangers. And soon the boutique found itself not only named in a trending hashtag, but flooded with boycott campaigns, angry emails, anonymous reviews that told their own versions of the same experience, the same humiliation, the same refusal to see Black dignity as anything but disruptive. And within 72 hours, the store had issued a hollow apology. The manager was suspended, but Emma didn't care about apologies. She cared about accountability, and she turned her newfound visibility into something lasting, launching an online platform called You Do Belong Here, where women of color could share experiences of racial bias in professional and retail spaces. A digital sanctuary that grew rapidly, collecting stories, gathering petitions, demanding action. And from that seed came partnerships, donations, press coverage, and eventually a city grant. And with that, Emma opened a storefront of her own, not a boutique for profit, but a wellness center and mentorship hub for working mothers and underserved girls. A place where value wasn't measured by your bag, but by your backbone. And as for the boutique that kicked her out, it didn't survive the storm. The public backlash was too strong, the lawsuits too many, the media too relentless. And it was eventually sold to new owners who, in an attempt to make amends, asked Emma to help relaunch the space as a community-inclusive brand. And while she declined the offer, she did attend the reopening not to celebrate them, but to stand as a mirror, a living reminder of what happens when systems fail the very people they profit from. She arrived in her same navy scrubs, the same badge, her son by her side. Now older, now taller, now proud. And the press took photos. Headlines called her a hero, but she didn't need the headlines. She already knew who she was. She knew that dignity doesn't ask for permission. It shows up, stands firm, and leaves a mark. And now when mothers walked into stores with their children, they walked differently, taller, firmer, braver. Because they had seen what happened when one woman said nothing with her mouth but everything with her presence. Because Emma didn't shout or curse or fight, she exposed, she documented, she planted truth like a seed and let the world decide whether it wanted to water it or burn it down. And when the world chose to water it, to amplify it, to learn from it, change happened, not because she asked for it, but because she made it impossible to ignore. And in the end, she didn't just buy her son a pair of sneakers, she bought him a future where his mother's strength would be remembered, not for how loudly she fought, but for how fiercely she refused to bow. Did this story shake you? Did it remind you of something you've seen or experienced? Then don't scroll past. Hit that subscribe button because the next story might just be yours. Tell us where you're watching from. Share your thoughts in the comments. And remember, no one can take your worth. Not a manager, not a brand, not a stare. You belong, always.